In the studio, the great Matt Schlapp, who joins us from the ACU. Great to see you, Matt.
Good to be here, Tucker.
So I got to be blunt with you. Kellyanne Conway was going to be sitting in that seat earlier tonight. We had booked her at their request, by the way. We don't often have people from the administration on, but they said we want to send over Kellyanne Conway. Great. And then not long before air, they canceled it for reasons that weren't exactly clear. Now, I think a lot of the descriptions in the press about what's going on at the White House are false, or they're animated by the hate the press has for Trump, which is totally real. But it does seem a little chaotic over there, I got to be honest with you. Is it as chaotic as it seems?
I was over there today. I have to say, it was like, whenever you get like inside the bubble, it's so much more tranquil. People are just like doing their jobs. Nobody's running around. I think if you take a step away from their daily jobs, this is a lot on a White House staff. I mean, this is more breaking news around an administration than we've seen in, I don't know if we've ever seen it before. And I think that comes with a certain amount of stress that's on these folks. And they also have this overlay of the legal implications. So now every word, everything they say is going to be scrutinized from an investigatory standpoint. So they're right to be cautious. And I've been in those situations when there's a lot of investigations going on. You're trying to do your job. There is nothing more stressful in life besides having your health at stake than being investigated. It is the most stressful thing a human being can go through.
I think that's got to be true. I've seen it a lot living here for a long time. But I got to say, that would apply also to the president himself, who continues to tweet. Now, I understood the utility of the tweeting during the campaign, but I also noticed toward the end of the campaign, when there was a lot at stake, he slowed down on the tweeting.
He did.
And on the extraneous public statements, and he won as a result. Is there a recognition in the White House that some of these tweets, not all, but some, are profoundly counterproductive in that they undercut the message of the White House, they confuse the hell out of people, and they scare his supporters?
Well, for the staff, absolutely. The staff would like to see this way cut back. From President Trump's perspective, I think he feels like he kind of fights with himself on these questions, which is the tweeting overall helpful, or does sometimes he miss the mark? I think he knows sometimes he misses the mark. But I think the other thing about the president, which is interesting, is he's really his own cause's best spokesman. If you really see all this question about communications in the White House, it really comes back to this very basic question. Donald Trump wants to be his own voice, and he's really his best spokesman. And my advice to the people over in the White House is let him be that. Because when you try to manage that message and get in front of the president, he comes back around and gets back in front of the parade and says it the way he wants to say it. So why don't we let him say it the way he wants to say it from the beginning, and then everybody can follow on around and support it.
On a night like tonight, where something big has just happened, and we're going to be, I think, live at 11 tonight, because we see this as a big news story.
It's a big story.
Right. That's exactly the moment when you want a kind of unified front. You don't want members of your staff calling over to news organizations and giving their point of view, and the press secretary saying one thing, and the president saying a third thing. That's not helpful,
not at all,
legally or as a public relations matter. So why not pick one? Is the president going to be the spokesman, or is Sean Spicer and Kellyanne, are they going to be the spokesman? I mean...
Yeah, I think this is a very fair point. So, you know, my wife Mercy and I have talked a lot about this. We're White House veterans.
Yes.
And we really do think the president is authentic. He did a great job with these sit-down interviews, one of them with Judge Jeanine from Fox News. We all learned a lot. In one of his other interviews, we learned that he wasn't a target of the FBI probe, which was really nice to have verified, because there's been so much misinformation. I mean, James Comey has leaked whenever it benefited him and clammed up on the central focus of what's really going on here, which I think is the biggest frustration, by the way, for Republicans and Democrats across all these issues that he's looked at. And I think when it comes to the White House briefings and everything else, I'm kind of a mend it, don't end it kind of guy. It's like you can do this any way you want. Mike McCurry is the one who decided to televise every one of these briefings. They don't have to be televised. You don't have to do them in that same format every day. I have this radical idea. Why don't you send out to the podium the person that most fits that moment for the president? And by the way, sometimes it can be the president. You know, there was past presidents, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, who would sometimes go into that briefing room and do the briefing themselves. I think they have to think through a way to be more creative in how they're getting this message out.
They seem very creative to me. In fact, so creative it's bewildering.
Well, they're creative on the other.
They seem very creative.
Do you mean creative in air quotes?
No. I mean, literally, they're communicating in ways that we haven't seen before. And it's kind of exciting, and it's kind of cool in some ways. But it's also, as I said a minute ago, demonstrably counterproductive. Like, it hurts them. Time and again, when the president comes out and says things for which he could be held legally accountable.
That's right.
On Twitter. And it raises the question, and everyone I know who voted for him says this, Where the heck is the guy who says to him, I'm sorry, that's not a good idea, don't do it? Where's that person?
Well, I don't know exactly how to answer that, because I think we're all kind of saying, okay, how does this work? I will tell you this, the one thing I know about Donald Trump is he's firmly in charge. He makes the decision at the end of the day. So he bears responsibility in many cases for the ultimate decision on these questions. But the real question, the other thing about Donald Trump that I've come to learn is that I think if he sees a plan and knows what the plan is and he buys into the plan, you got a lot better chance that he's going to follow it. If he sees kind of no plan and people are meandering, he makes his own news.
I get that. And look, I don't want to keep, like, there are a lot of channels to watch if you want to pick apart the Trump administration. I have frustrations, obviously, with the administration, but, you know, I feel like others cover that pretty carefully. But here's one thing that really bothers me, is this a president who ran on actual ideas. Bringing the middle class back from its path to extinction was number one, because that's where they're going. It's shrinking in absolute size. They're living shorter lives. They're poorer. They're dying of preventable things like ODs and diabetes. That's the whole point of the campaign.
That is the whole point.
I don't hear anything about that.